Welcome back. Let us continue our discussion related to communication. In the previous lecture, I have talked about verbal communication. In this lecture, I am going to talk about non-verbal communication, which is entirely a different phenomena different from verbal communication. So, let us first define that what is non-verbal communication. The most important characteristics when we are talking about non-verbal communication is that it has no structure, no vocabulary, and is very spontaneous and reliable. Any person can play with the words, in form of speaking or speech or in writing. But when we talk about non-verbal communication, it has no structure and it is so spontaneous that even without uttering a word, the other person can get a very clear and reliable message to himself. So, non-verbal communication is the non-verbal human response in form of gestures, facial expressions or any body movement, and is perceived characteristics of the environment through which the non-verbal messages are transmitted. The person has a thought, but does not give any speech or word or any connotation in form of phonetic or semantics to that thought pertaining to that environment, and without uttering a word, the person through facial expression, movement or gesture can easily convey the message to the other person. So, this is non-verbal communication where there is no speech, there is no vocabulary and it has no structure, but still it is considered to be the more reliable form of communication. Conventionally, non-verbal communication has come to mean, it has several aspects when we talk about non-verbal communication. It is paralanguage where voice is more intense, although the person is not communicating verbally any message to the other person. So, this constitutes voice intensity or speech disturbances. Any person who receives any news which creates anxiety within the person, the verbal communication can be, oh my God, this was not expected. Maybe the verbal communication will involve these kind of words, but sometimes the person has a different way to respond to such any bad or unfortunate news, that maybe the person experience anxiety, but he is unable to speak, he will experience a disturbance and there will be some disturbance in form of disturbance in the intensity through hesitation, or it can be in form of silences. For instance, any anxiety can be expressed while the person keeps silent. He would not say anything and he will have a very blank face. This is paralanguage. In spite of saying yes to the other person, maybe the person will express some kind of unspoken tone before the other person, which can be in form of hesitation, that how to respond. It can be in form of non-fluences, not saying yes, but maybe oh. So, these have no words, no meaning, but some speech disturbances can be expressed which are completely non-verbal in nature. So, paralanguage constitutes voice intensity, speech disturbance under anxiety situations. It can be hesitation when this person has some fear to speak in front of some other group members, and how they tend to hesitate in speaking. Or it can be silences, it can be laughing or yawning. For instance, and when we are not interested in listening to the other person, we start looking here and there, or we will start yawning. This is a clear cut message to the person that I am not interested in listening to you at this moment. So, all these non-fluencies and yawning constitutes paralanguage, which is a way to communicate non-verbally. So, generally more the way something is said than precise words used. That is why it is being said that any non-verbal communication is more spontaneous and reliable, even when we are using words. Maybe the person cannot trust or rely on those words, but if it is non-verbal message communicated to the other person, it has to be very much reliable, spontaneous and more transparent. The other parameter or determinant of non-verbal communication is kinesthetics or body language, which is the most important form of communication in a day-to-day life as well. Be it any social situation, be it any organizational meeting, how employees respond to the higher authorities or vice versa, while not uttering a word, but still the message is clear to us. So, this involves kinesthetic or body language. This kind of study was first introduced by Ralph Zellin, and he was particularly interested in what factors affect eye contact and suggested that eye contact is used to indicate affiliative orientation and an information seeking device. Now, through body language, even involving eye contact, we can express fear, we can express fright, we can express intimacy, and at the same time we can also express curiosity to gain some more information. The most important thing is that again, when we are talking about body movement, kinesthetic or eye movement, there is no usage of verbal speech. It is only non-fluencies or simple body movements which give a clear cut message to the other person. So, kinesthetics involves not only body movements, but it also involves emblems, effect displays, illustrators and adaptators. Now, here emblems which was first used by researcher David Efron, and these are the non-verbal signals that can generally be transmitted directly into words and describe gestures that have very precise meanings known within an ethnic or cultural group. For instance, thumbs up. Now, this in any particular culture can be considered or translated into word as okay or perfect. It can be a forwarding palm. In one culture, it can be a symbol of victory, or it can be in another culture to stop or to block. So, these kind of emblems have some cultural influences or connotations, but even in every culture these body movements have specific meaning, and we can understand while giving these meanings in a verbal form. For instance, it can be gestures such as beckoning with the first finger, that is to come here. It is being considered as a body language in one culture and maybe not acceptable in the other culture. It can be thumb to index finger, that is okay, or it can be a wave, that is hello or goodbye, or it can be hand to ear requesting the person to speak louder. So, these are the emblems which involves body movements without any verbal message, but it has some verbal meaning hidden behind those body movements. So, these are the emblems. It also involves illustrators. These are directly tied to speech, serving to illustrate what is being said verbally to enhance receiver comprehension. For example, we shake our head when we say no, right, or we shake hand. It can be a welcome and also it can be the end of the game. When any event is over, still we shake hand with the other person. So, these are illustrators which has some direct meaning to the speech. We can easily understand or we can easily translate those body movements to words or speech. These are illustrators which is easily to comprehend or understand about the other person's message. So, these are illustrators, and the other is effect displays. As the term implies, it talks about emotions and feelings, that how they are being conveyed through our facial muscles and eyes also. Like I said just now, that even eye contact reflects intimacy, information seeking anxiety or curiosity. It can be both, it can be fear and fright as well. So, effect displays are non-verbal communication that expresses emotions and feelings, and these feelings are expressed in a non-verbal pattern through our facial muscles. Our facial muscles contract and expand whenever there is some kind of emotions we experience. So, this can be happiness or surprise. Our eyes are elated when we are happy. When we are sad, our eyes is squeezed down in a way that we can easily understand that the other person is not feeling happy after listening to some bad news. So, this is termed as effect displays. It can be disgust or it can be interest. Any person who enters the room and we like that person a lot, we can easily display our effect through our eyes that you are most welcome. On the other hand, if the other person whom we do not like at all and enters the boardroom, then definitely our disliking for that person can be easily reflected in our eyes. So, affect displays are extremely informative and influential. Informative here means that we can receive any kind of emotional information in form of liking and disliking from the other person in a very lucid manner. And therefore, an affect display might accompany folding up your hands for silence, or two men threaten each other but do not fight openly. So, even they can use their fist to express the feeling, to threat the other person without uttering a word, and at the same time they have anger in their eyes as well. Similarly, there can be request in the eyes and while requesting the other person by folding hands. So, this is affect displays where you are requesting and at the same time you are also trying to threat the other person. So, all these movements in form of affect displays through our facial muscles can easily express body movements or affect displays. Adapters, here adapters in terms of body language or kinesthetic can be that whenever we are waiting for our results, we try to start biting our nails because there is so much of anxiety, or we start shaking our legs. So, these are the adapters through which we are expressing our emotions. We are anxious, we are tense, we are stressed, we tend to just express that emotion through our body language without uttering a word. So, these are adapters, these are body motions used by people to adapt or adjust to a communication process that is occurring. It may be stress induced reaction, that is what I said, when we are waiting for the result, we start biting our nails because there is so much of tension within us. We want to settle down, we calm down, but how to? We cannot calm down at that particular moment, and how we are expressing that anxiety without uttering a word. Biting our nails, tapping your foot or fingers, or using another repetitive body motion during the conversations. We are waiting for the results, we start moving in the room from left to right, right to left like a pendulum. So, this is adaptators, that body language is something that is reflecting your emotion in a very unspoken manner, but that message is loud and more precise. These are the three nonverbal communication patterns in terms of paralanguage, kinesthetic or body language, which also includes emblems, illustrators, affect displays and adaptators. These are some pictures which reflects kinesics or body language, that how facial muscles contracts and expands when we are in anger, and at the same time the other picture which has a sense of achievement on the face of that person. This is kinesics or body language. In these three pictures, we can easily identify tension, stress and anxiety. All the three pictures are displaying affect in form of stress, in form of anxiety, in form of curiosity. Next comes proxemics, another important aspect of nonverbal communication apart from body language. Although it is very important, then proxemics also has its own significance to talk about nonverbal communication, where we use space in any social interaction. The significance of space we use while interacting with the other person. So, proxemics is the study of how space and distance influence communication. It can help us to understand the level of interpersonal relationship between two people. So, proxemics uses the distance metaphor to describe human relationships and deals with the amount of space we usually occupy to demonstrate during communication. The more two people are very close to each other, that will reflect the level of intimacy between two people. It has a specific, very defined and precise space that two people occupy. It is between 0 to 18 inches. That is the intimacy that reflects that two people are intimate, they are very close to each other, and that is that all depends on the amount of space they share or occupy. So, we can say that according to Edward T. Hall, who classified the distance metaphor in nonverbal communication, that there are three zones that are being used in proxemics, that is intimate zone for embracing, touching or whispering. Two people are very intimate, they are very close to each other, the distance will be maximum from minimum 0 to 18 inches, where the two people can express their affection towards each other while hugging or embracing or whispering between the two people. There can be a personal zone also, where the interactions take place between two friends, and the zone, that is the space that occupy the two people for each other, is 1.5 to 5 feet. So, this is a personal zone where two people are interacting with each other, for example, a family, siblings, parents, grandparents, all are living together and they are personal to each other, they maintain a personal relationship with each other, and that space that they share with each other is between 1.5 to 5 feet. So, this is personal zone, it can be a family, it can be a good friend. Other is social zone, where people have acquaintances with each other, for maybe in a residential building we know our neighbors very well, and we maintain a distance based on the space, that is 5 to 7 feet of distance. That means the distance is so much that we understand each other, we talk to each other, but that distance will define the relationship between two people in that neighborhood locality. And the other is public zone, which is used for public speaking. So, the zone extends from 12 to 25 feet. So, the distance metaphor will define that the distance between the leader and the follower is between 12 to 25 feet. So, the leader is actually addressing the public, and that is the distance. So, this clearly indicates that the leader is addressing the mass or the followers, and that distance will define the relationship, that one is the leader and the other is the follower, and that relationship is very professional. So, this is how according to Edward T. Hall, when we talk about proxemics, we use distance in terms of the space people occupy in any social interaction. This is proxemics. The use of space or the amount of space two people occupy during social interaction, and that space will define, that zone will define the quality of relationship between two people. It can be personal, it can be intimate zone, it can be social zone, and it can be public zone. So, this is a diagrammatic representation of proxemics which defines the distances. So, in the intimate zone, two people are so close to each other. The personal, it is like a family, they are revolving in a space of 1.5 to 5 feet inches. The other is social. So, this is how the space are being defined in any social situation, and the most important thing to understand is that in this study of proxemics, the distances are or the spaces are occupied in a very natural fashion, because two people know that what kind of relationship they share with each other, and that zone is being occupied or created in a very natural course of action. These are the some examples of proxemics, where it is intimate zone, social zone, and personal zone. In all the three pictures, three types of zones are easily understandable. So, these are proxemics, the use of distance metaphor. So, this is how we have discussed about proxemics and body movements, where non-verbal communication involves, but ultimately the significance is that whenever there is some non-verbal communication, the communication is spontaneous, although it is unstructured, but it is very precise and reliable. If we talk about proxemics as well, I will just go to the pictures that I have used in the discussion. Even without uttering a word, we can simply understand that what kind of relationship people share in all the three pictures. The zones are easily identifiable, that is intimate zone, personal zone, and social zone. No words are there, no words are required to understand the relationship among members in all the three pictures. Similarly, if I go to kinesics, here also based on the facial contraction of muscles, all the type of emotions are easily displayed on the face in terms of anger. There can be a frowning expression on the face, there can be a sense of achievement where proud or pride is easily reflected on the face, it can be tension, it can be anxiety, it can be curiosity. So, all in all, non-verbal communication plays an important role to understand the real or hidden message in the body movements. So, we are through with the discussion. I will continue in the next lecture. Thank you so much.